For the barbell front squat, the first thing we want to do is get this barbell set up at a good height. I recommend starting with about armpit height. You can set up the J-hooks to mimic that. That height is only so that you can get into the front rack position comfortably and safely. If you prefer to have a little higher or a little lower, that's up to you. So first we're going to do, once we got them at the approximate same height on both sides, I'm going to roll that barbell towards the front of the J-hook so it's nice and secure. Next thing I want to do is I want to find my hand position. You're going to want to use that same hand position that you were using for the front rack setup position. This is going to be the same hand position that you're going to use for a power clean or a squat clean, an overhead press, push press, or a jerk. They're all going to be about the same. Now when I'm getting set up, check out our front rack position setup video. That'll help you get a better idea. But for me, I'm going to make sure that my hands are just outside of my shoulders. We go a lot more in depth on that video. Once I've got that hand position, my hands are actually going to be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch as the smooth meets the knurling, about 1/2 inch onto the knurling. Make sure both hands are equal distance from both sides. I'm going to wrap my thumb and fingers around securely. Place my feet shoulder width directly underneath that bar. My wrists are straight. From here, with my arms extended, I'm going to pull my shoulder blades back. As I keep my shoulder blades back, check this out. It gets a little tricky here. I'm going to sink with my hips down, and then I'm going to pull myself forward. I'm going to row that bar into my chest and into my shoulders, and I'm going to sink down underneath, keep my hips back, knees bent, rotating those elbows forward as they get underneath. From this position, we want to avoid having the hips forward, having the hips too far back. We want to sit down almost like it's a kind of a half squat. So again, hands equal distance from the center, feet underneath the bar, shoulder width, shoulder blades back, arms extended, sink the hips down, forward. I'm going to pull that bar into my shoulders, elbows forward till those upper arms are parallel with the ground. Once I have it secured behind that ridge formed by my shoulder muscles, belly breath, and I'm going to unrack by extending the knees and hips. From here, take 2 steps back. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to turn to the side, but just make sure once you unrack it, we want to avoid taking these short little choppy steps. Instead, 2 nice big rigid steps. Don't waste any time or energy. Now from the side, front squat position. Heels are going to stay on the ground. You might have your toes out like I will, or you might have your toes slightly forward. You may have more of a hip width stance, or you might have more of a shoulder width stance. Next thing we want to do while keeping those elbows forward and the hands on that bar, we want to take in a nice deep belly breath. We're going to initiate movement by spreading the floor with the feet, driving the knees out, bending at the knees and hips, sinking down into that front squat position, coming back up. Very important to keep focused on something in the distance. We want to avoid cranking our neck back. We also don't want to look down. If we look down, that's where we're going to start heading, and that bar is going to roll right off the shoulders. Once you're complete with those number of reps, take those 2 steps forward. Try not to run into the rack. Set it down securely in those J-hooks, and allow those arms to come out from underneath that bar. A couple things with the front squat. I would encourage you to go back to that front squat or front rack setup position video. Make sure you can keep this in a good position. If the elbows start dropping down during that front squat, more of the load's going to start going forward, and it's going to start coming down towards your chest, and it's going to want to pull you down forward. One, mechanically, that's just not the most effective way to squat, but 2, it's not going to be a safe position for your wrists, your elbows, and if that bar gets dumped, it'll be right near your knees. So pay attention to that. Take your time to get into a good setup before you unrack it. Once you unrack it, make sure you have the mobility and the strength to stay up in this front squat position so that as you sink down, you don't lose that. You can control it throughout the whole movement. You can keep a nice upright torso. The last thing is, make sure you're taking that deep belly breath before you get into that squat. When we take in that belly breath, we're using our diaphragm and contracting all these muscles around our torso to create almost like this shield going around our torso so that it's not able to collapse under that load as we go down. That's how you do a barbell front squat.